I told him I deserved better while a seamstress pinned the back of my dress. It was a Tuesday that smelled like steamed satin and carpet cleaner. I was standing on a low platform in a bridal boutique, arms lifted like a scarecrow, while a woman named Carla darted around me with a mouthful of pins. My mom sat in the crushed velvet chair taking pictures for the cousins, and my best friend Kayla kept whispering snatched in the way people do when they want to hear the word echo. I had lost exactly 101 pounds by then. 40 with disciplined boredom, 60 with a sleeve gastrectomy, 1 by crying in a bathroom when my favorite jeans zipped for the first time since college. Ethan held my coat and smiled like a man who didn't care what number the seamstress wrote on her clipboard. He looked proud. Of me, of US, of the patient grocery lists and the bland air fryer dinners and the 6 a.m. walks across a city that always smelled like bread right when you couldn't have it. He took a video, the kind he always took. Quiet for us, not the internet. Of me turning in a circle while Carla sked and said things like, "We can take in more at the waist." Kayla said, "You are going to have options after this," loud enough that the bride in the next room laughed. My mother made a face, the kind that says we don't say the quiet part out loud, and Ethan said nothing, because Ethan is the kind of man who knows when a sentence is a trap. And I? Stupid, new, flush with the kind of attention that makes you feel like you invented mirrors. Said, "I know. I deserve better now." I wasn't looking at him when I said it. I was looking at myself, high on a version of me that didn't avoid photographs. I said it like a joke. I said it like an Instagram caption. I said it like I had never watched this man sit with me on a bathroom floor while I sobbed because my body felt like a costume I couldn't unzip. I said it, and then I watched it land. He didn't do a dramatic flinch. He blinked once, slow, the way he blinks when a pot on the stove boils over, and he's deciding whether to lift it or turn off the heat. "Want to run that back?" he asked lightly, not sarcastic. The seamstress froze in a squat like a wildlife documentarian waiting to see if the animals notice her. "I'm kidding," I said, but it came out mean, because when I'm ashamed I go sharp. "Relax." Ethan nodded. He smiled for my mom's next photo. He paid the deposit for the alterations like a person who has already decided that money and dignity will part amicably. He held my coat on the sidewalk. I slipped my arms through the sleeves and said, in a voice I didn't recognize, "Don't look so wounded." "I'm not wounded," he said softly. "I'm paying attention. We met when I was heavier. No coy language needed. I was funny, I was great at my job, I was a person people wanted at their parties because I remembered everybody's drink orders and everybody's dog's name. I also wore black cardigans like armor and pretended to love being the chill girl, when what I meant was, I don't want to make you uncomfortable with my want. Ethan fell in love with me as I was, then learned to love me as I changed, then kept loving me when the algorithm started loving me too. It's not that he isn't attractive. He is. He's the kind of handsome that ages well because it's built on kindness and good sleep. But as the weight fell and the DMs rose, a small loud animal in my chest started telling a story. "You were settling. Now you have proof you don't have to. You deserve a man who matches your glow." The animal used words like value and league and trajectory because it had read too many posts written by people who think relationships are markets. If there had been a bell on the animal's collar, Ethan would have heard it coming. There wasn't. He only heard me. We had dated for years. He proposed last winter under the Bryant Park lights with a ring that had his grandmother's diamond in a clean, simple setting. I cried into my scarf like a proper cliché. We picked an October date at a venue in Long Island City with a view that made my parents say wow out loud. We signed contracts, paid deposits, made spreadsheets. Ethan loves a spreadsheet like some people love pets. He booked the band, I chose the flowers, we split the photographer. He cared about candidates, I cared about the black and white portrait with the veil and the cheekbone I had grown. I need you to understand. Ethan never once asked me to stop posting the before and afters. He never told me to stop pulling my shirt up in mirror selfies to show the loose skin I was proud of surviving. He came to my dietitian appointments and sat quietly unless I asked him to speak. He said yes to the surgery when I said I was done pretending hard work alone could drown an ocean. He bought me a soft robe for the day after and installed a grab bar in the shower. He made bone broth. He made quiet. What he didn't do was become new too. He stayed a software engineer who wore the same coat 3 winters in a row because he liked the pockets. He stayed a man who preferred coffee with 1 sugar to espresso with an artfully dusted rim. He stayed Ethan. I started noticing men who didn't know me noticing me. A barista wrote his number on a cup with a smiley face I wanted to photograph. A man on the subway offered me his seat, and then a comment about my eyes that was really about my waist. A personal trainer at my gym called me killer and queen, and all the silly little titles you give strangers you want to be less strange. I posted a how it started / how it's going, and woke up to 50,000 likes and a DM from a fitness brand offering a code to sell leggings to women who sound like they're running towards something when they're really being chased. I became mean in small ways. I rolled my eyes when Ethan ordered the fries I used to split with him. I told him we should hire a private car for the wedding even though his brother had offered to drive. I said it like a status update, not a preference. I called his navy suit fine. I joked that if he didn't want to do Invisalign before the wedding, he could at least grow a beard. I called myself honest when what I was cruel. After the dress fitting, he walked me home. He kissed my head at my door. He said, "I'm going to work late. Go inside, nap." He didn't look at me like a man walking away from a cliff. He looked at me like a man who had seen weather maps. At 6:58 the next morning, I woke to an email from him with the subject line, "Wedding Logistics." In the body 4 short paragraphs. The first, "I love you. I have loved you for a long time. Yesterday you said you deserve better, and I believe you believe that. I don't think I'm your version of better anymore, and I won't marry someone who thinks that about me. I'm canceling the wedding. I've already started calling vendors to minimize financial damage. We will divide any lost deposits fairly. The second, this isn't punishment. It's a boundary. You're allowed to outgrow me. I'm allowed to not show up to my own humiliation. The third, please put my grandmother's ring on the dresser. Under New York law, an engagement ring is a conditional gift in contemplation of marriage. When the marriage doesn't happen, it's returned to the giver regardless of fault. I'll arrange a time to pick it up. The fourth, I will send a separate email with passwords to our planning docs and a list of what I've already coordinated, so you don't have to chase it while you're upset. I read it 3 times and then threw up bile because there was nothing left in my stomach to betray me. I wanted to argue with the law. I wanted to argue with the boundary. I wanted to argue with the tone. So maddeningly gentle, so infuriatingly adult. I wanted to send back, "Are you serious?" in all caps like that could rewind me on the platform. I didn't send anything. I stared at the ring on my finger and felt the diamond like a pebble in a shoe. He texted an hour later. "I'll call your mom so she doesn't hear it from you and think she needs to take sides." He called Kayla too apparently, because she texted me WTF, and then, "You can fix this." And then because she is loyal before she is wise. He's being dramatic, babe. Ethan wasn't dramatic. He was efficient. By noon he'd emailed the venue to notify them of cancellation. The contract had been clear on this. Our $8,000 deposit was non-refundable, but transferable if the date rebooked. He asked politely because of course, that they list our date on their cancellations board for couples hunting last minute. He called the florist. The deposit was half refundable if canceled more than 90 days out. We were at 93. He spoke with the band leader. The retainer was gone, but they offered to move it to another event if either of us booked them in the next 18 months. He emailed the photographer. She'd hold our money as credit toward future sessions. He sent me a spreadsheet update with color-coded cells, green for refundable, yellow for credit, red for sunk costs, and a note. "We'll split losses 50-50. I'll transfer you a breakdown tonight." I called him. He didn't answer. I left a voicemail with a voice I didn't recognize. "Ethan, please." I was being stupid. I was excited. I was hyped up. I didn't mean it. You can't just. The voicemail cut me off at the end. Mercy disguised as time limit. My mother buzzed the intercom like a fire alarm. She came upstairs and put her purse down like she meant to stay. She asked, "Do you want me to be on your side or the side of the truth?" I said mine. She hugged me then said, "Okay. The truth is, you told a good man he wasn't good enough. He believed you." I put the ring on the dresser and stared at it while my brain tried to lawyer me out of consequences. Kayla came over and curled on the couch, ran Scenario A. Drive to his office, make a speech in the lobby, Scenario B. Post a carousel about change, so people frame this as empowerment, not whatever it is, and Scenario C. Tell him you were testing him to see if he'd fight for you. I realized I had the kind of friend who will always bring a hose, even when the house is already ash. At 5:41 p.m., Ethan's second email came. It was titled Vendor Matrix and Accounts. He listed the shared Google Drive folders, the Trello boards, the logins we'd made for the registry and the wedding website. He had already drafted language to put on the site to inform guests. Simple, kind, not a soap opera. We have decided not to move forward with our wedding. We appreciate your love and privacy. He asked for my approval to publish it. He attached a PDF called Next Steps with bullet points like we were in a meeting. 1. Notify out-of-town guests so they can cancel travel. 2. Return registry gifts already received. 3. Close the joint wedding savings account balance. $12,320. 4. Decide on apartment next steps. Lease up in February. Options. Renew in one name, both vacate. Or assign to a replacement tenant with landlord approval. He had footnotes. He is the kind of man who footnotes in real life. Under ring, a calm note. Per New York civil rights law, engagement rings are conditional gifts. Return is required regardless of fault. I will be by tomorrow at 9 a.m. to pick it up. I'll text before I come upstairs. If you're not comfortable seeing me, leave it in the envelope with the doorman. I'll sign a receipt for you. Kayla made a noise like a kettle. No way, she said. He canceled. You keep the ring. New York isn't California, I said, surprising myself with the quick cheat sheet my brain had clearly kept handy even while I was busy misbehaving. California's the one where who's at fault sometimes matters. Here it's no fault. If there's no wedding, ring goes back to the giver. Period. I hated that I knew that. I hated that he knew I knew that. Then sell your dress, Kayla snapped, as if that loss could buy me a win. He texted at 8:55 a.m. The next morning. Coming up. I opened the door before he knocked because I'm weak around punctuality. He looked tired and clean, like he had slept on purpose. He kept his hands in his coat pockets and his eyes level. We stood in a doorway that had seen 4 years of us and suddenly felt like a courthouse. I picked up the ring box from the dresser. My fingers shook. Here, I said, and held it the way you hold something that has to leave you in order for you to live. Thank you, he said, and took it like a man taking a bird out of a house, so it stops bashing itself against windows. He slid an envelope across the console table. Inside a signed acknowledgement. Received from L. The engagement ring originally given on December 17, 2023, solitaire diamond, white gold band, returned on June 14, 2025. A. He had dated it. He had written the time. He had initialed the bottom corner like an adult who has lived with other adults. He did not put the ring in his pocket like a robber. He put it in the inside pocket of his coat like an heirloom. I'm sorry, I blurted because I am cliché and because it was true, not useful. I said it because I wanted to see if you'd fight. I fought for 4 years, he said, not angry, just tired. I fought for us when you needed help and wanted to pretend you didn't. I fought for a version of you that liked me in public and in the mirror. I am not fighting to be good enough for the person you become when a seamstress holds pins in her mouth and your best friend says you have options. I want to marry someone who already decided I was the option. I did. I said, too late to matter. Ido. You decided a dress ago, he said, which would have been funny in a book and felt like a bruise in our hallway. I don't think you do now. He left without asking for anything else. He didn't lecture. He didn't ask to take the cast iron pan he loves or the plant he sings to when he thinks I'm in the shower. He went to work. I sat on the rug and stared at the spot his shoes had imprinted slightly into the woven pattern, and thought about all the times I'd prided myself on not being dramatic, because I didn't cry at movies. Turns out, I am dramatic, I just save it for when it destroys things. You could make a case that Ethan won right there. He set a boundary, retrieved his heirloom, executed a complex plan cleanly, and left with his self-respect intact. But winning is more boring than that when good men do it. It looks like phone calls at lunch hour to cancel a string quartet, without making them feel like accomplices. It looks like emailing your aunt to say you won't be needing the family quilt she was making with our initials. It looks like calling American Express to ask how to dispute a charge. You can't, not for cold feet, not when you signed a contract and the vendor did nothing wrong, and not trying anyway because you don't lie with paperwork. The next 2 weeks were a graduate seminar in adult logistics. We split the red, yellow, green cells. I Venmo'd him $2,400, my half of the non-refundable deposits and fees we couldn't repurpose. He sent me $6,160. Half the wedding savings account. Without me asking, I told him to keep it to make himself whole on the sunk costs I couldn't reimburse until my next paycheck. He refused. He called the venue weekly to ask if anyone had taken our date. 2 weeks later, a couple did, and the venue returned our deposit minus a $500 administrative rebooking fee. He transferred me half without being asked, attached to a note. Refund from venue. My dress was a loss. Bridal shops don't do returns on altered gowns. Carla had already cut the bodice. I listed it on a resale site for 50% of what I'd paid, and answered DMs from strangers politely even when they asked if I had any real bride photos. That made me laugh in a small, ugly way. I did, and they were real enough to end a wedding. We told our landlord we wouldn't be renewing. Ethan proposed the options in a single neutral text. You take the lease alone. I take the lease alone, or we both vacate. We ended up vacating. I couldn't afford rent on my own without strangling my new, careful budget, and he wanted out, period. We posted an assignment listing with the landlord's approval. A pair of graduate students took it. We split the $1,000 lease assignment fee. He hired cleaners. I reimbursed half. I walked through the empty apartment on the last day and stood in the room that was going to be the office and cried because it smelled like lemon and endings. Meanwhile, the internet did what the internet does. Kayla, who loves me, started soft pitching a narrative to anyone who asked. Sometimes people grow apart. My mother, who loves me differently, told one aunt exactly what I had said with pins in the dress, and then told her to keep it off Facebook. Ethan posted nothing. He texted 5 people directly, the people who needed to know. His parents, his sister, his 2 best friends, and asked them kindly not to turn it into a group chat event. He removed me from our shared calendar, and took my name off the cat-sitter app. He deleted our wedding website gracefully. I texted him once, a week after the ring handoff, at 1:04 a.m., a time that is basically an admission of poor judgment. Are you sure? I wrote. We could go to counseling. He read it at 7:12 a.m. and replied at 7:17. Counseling helps people who want the same thing and don't know how to make it. You told me what you want. I heard you. Then, please don't text late. It makes mornings harder. I got angry then, which is a useful stage if you don't build a house there. I told myself he had always resented me for losing weight, that he'd been waiting to be offended so he could be a victim. Then I opened my phone and scrolled my own messages and saw the months of him asking, do you want me to come to your follow-up? And I made the soup you like, I'll leave it labeled. And how do you want me to handle the comments dudes leave on your transformation pics? My anger sat down and shut up. The legal stuff came up again for the ring because an older cousin texted me outraged. He dumped you and you gave the ring back. I sent her a screenshot of the New York rule. No fault return of engagement rings as conditional gifts. And said, it's his grandmother's diamond. She wrote back a single word, fair. That's what Ethan was, which is harder to argue with than right. He didn't ask my parents to repay their deposit on the caterer they'd offered to cover. He called the caterer himself, asked what could be refunded, and told my dad exactly the amount to expect back and when. He wrote a short, kind email to the officiant, his uncle, and thanked him for agreeing to stand up for us, even if we wouldn't need the standing anymore. He sent thank you notes, the ridiculous, perfect kind, to the vendors whose time he'd taken, apologizing for the inconvenience. He did all of this while I learned to put my phone in another room at night, so I would stop reaching for it like a drug. I went to therapy. I told the truth, not just the version that plays well. I liked the attention, I said to a woman who has heard the sentence 1,000 times. I liked being new. I liked being told I was valuable in a currency that spends on apps. She nodded and asked, when is the first time you felt like you were settling? I said, when I needed help getting off the couch after surgery, and he put his arm under mine like it was the least romantic thing we'd ever done. And then I cried because love that helps you pee is not cinematic, and is somehow everything. 2 months after the cancelled wedding, I saw him on 34th Street. He had a bag from a hardware store, and the kind of smile you give strangers who look like they might cry. He waved. I waved. That night, he sent me one text. The venue rebooked. You should see your half hit. Then please confirm when you get it. I wrote back, received. Thank you. I didn't ask how he was. He didn't ask how my dress resale went. This is what adulthood looks like when you break your own heart. It looks like checking boxes and eating dinner alone. If you need a villain, make it me. It's cleaner. I can't tell you that Ethan had a secret dark side that will be revealed in Act 3. He didn't. He paid for the band because he had the higher salary and didn't make it feel like a favor. He rubbed my feet and said, tell me when to stop, like consent is a habit. He listened to my mother talk about flower colors for 40 minutes once, and then sent me a text that said, I need a medal. He wasn't perfect. He was particular. He left cabinet doors open like he believed in poltergeists. He loaded the dishwasher like a person in an ad. He was regular. If I had married him, I would have had a regular life. Coffee in the morning, laundry on Saturdays, laughter in the car when someone cut us off and I said something unprintable about their bumper stickers. Instead I said I deserved better, I meant new. I meant shiny. I meant the kind of man who says he invests. Ethan invested in me when I was a stock that looked like a risky bet. When the market got hot, I decided I belonged in a different portfolio. Mixed metaphors aside, that's what I did. He did the right thing, the dull thing, the thing that looks like cowardice to people who think love is an obstacle course. He stepped aside. People ask me now, quietly, so they don't have to commit to an opinion. Do you think you'll ever get back together? I used to say maybe, because hope is a sugar. Now I say, I don't think I'm the kind of person he would marry anymore. It sounds sad. It is. It's also honest. I am working on being different. Not thinner. Not shinier. Just kinder to the person who serves me coffee in the morning, even when that person is me. If you want the nitty-gritty. And you do, because unchecked emotion looks like a scam. Here are the parts people forget to tell you when they talk about canceled weddings. Wedding cancellation insurance exists, but it rarely covers change of heart. Vendors keep deposits because deposits are how they live when people are flaky. You can sometimes transfer credits or rebook dates and salvage thousands by being nice on the phone. You return gifts. People are nicer about that than you think. Engagement rings in some states are conditional gifts. New York says give it back no matter who calls it off. California says fault can matter. Pennsylvania says give it back. Your state's mileage may vary. Ask a lawyer, not your cousin. Leases have fees if you assign them. Cleaners cost more than you expect and are always worth it. Your mom will cry on your couch and you will be the one who has to hand her a tissue while knowing you set the scene. I unfollowed 3 glow-up accounts. I keep the gym. I keep my dietitian. I keep the robe he bought me because it's soft and because I paid him my half for it long before the dress fitting. I deleted a draft post that started with, sometimes growth means outgrowing. Growth sometimes means staying and apologizing and shutting up about men who match your energy. I didn't do that in time. I will next time. I will not measure a man by the attention he draws around me, but by the quiet he builds with me. Last week, Kayla sent me a screenshot from Instagram that made my stomach lurch even though nothing on it should have. Ethan standing with a woman in a bookstore, both of them grinning at a shelf like it had told a joke. The caption was nothing. A friend's photo, probably. I didn't zoom. I didn't send it to my therapist. I turned off my phone and went for a walk around the block without putting on a cute outfit. A guy at the deli said, "Hey, beautiful," and I nodded like a person who knows that beauty is louder when you're busy doing something else. If you're reading this because you want to know if he won, yes. He won by not marrying me to prove a point. He won by getting his grandmother's ring back without going to court or to war. He won by not writing a subtweet about women who glow up and go. He won by calling the florist and saying, "Please release the date. There's a bride who could use it." Like the world is not a zero-sum game. He won by leaving and by not hating me in public. He wins every day he unloads a dishwasher in an apartment that does not have to hold my worst sentence. I am not asking for sympathy. I am writing this because a woman at my gym told me last month she was thinking of leaving her boyfriend because once you become hot you deserve a man at your level. And I watched the animal behind her eyes and thought, we are all being fed. I am writing this because I said a sentence in a room with mirrors and pins and a man who loved me, and then watched him quietly change the locks on a future I had assumed was mine. I am writing this because if one person reading this pauses at the seamstress and swallows the worst version of their victory lap, I will feel a tiny piece of my apology hit the world where it can do something. The dress is gone. A girl named Naya bought it off the resale site with money she saved by tutoring algebra after school. She sent me a photo of herself in it in a bathroom with fluorescent lights and a caption that said, "I feel like a cupcake." I wrote back, "You look like a bride. Dance until your feet hurt." I cried and then I didn't. Ethan lives somewhere else now. My apartment is mine. The windows stick in summer. The neighbor's wind chimes are overconfident. I drink my coffee with the one sugar he always had on hand for me. I changed my emergency contact back to my mother. I deleted the wedding folder and kept the spreadsheet template because he makes good templates. I do not try on dresses in my head. I try on sentences. The one I practice most is simple. You are enough, and so am I. The trick is meaning it when the room is quiet and no one has a camera. If it sounds like a moral, it isn't. It's a boring habit I want to own. Be kinder than the voice in your head that wants to win a game nobody else is playing. If you love a regular man who buys the band and remembers your dad's gout and watches you spin on a platform and says, "You look like you," don't call him not enough because a stranger on the internet told you there's a tier you belong in now. You belong in a house where somebody says, I'll chop the onions, your eyes always tear. I had that house. I set it on fire with a sentence. He called the fire department and walked away. He'll be okay. He already is. I'm getting there. It's slower than cardio and quieter than applause. I don't post the progress. I make soup and I text my mother and I take the stairs and I repeat the most adult sentence I know, which is, I was wrong. Then I go to bed, in a room where the seamstress can't hear me, feeling like a person I might someday deserve.